Laura and my daughter Keely and I, we just moved up here in March for work. But it's quite a little story of how we came up here. And what got me thinking about this was Pastor Chris's sermon that he was doing on turning the world upside down and how we need to surrender to God. And what does that mean for me? What does that mean for you? For us, it actually meant a big life change. It meant a move from Hamilton up here to Angus. Last summer in June, one of the associates at my office came to me and said, "Hey, Steve, what do you think of moving up to Barrie to work at the Barrie office?" Because the gentleman there was going to be retiring soon and they had a need for someone to come up here. And Laura and I thought about it, and we looked at some real estate online, and we didn't do a serious look. We didn't come up here, but we looked online, and we thought about it, and we prayed about it, and said, well, if God really wants us to move up here, He'll make it abundantly clear. So He would give us a sign. And a few weeks later, I was actually up at the Barrie office dropping off some equipment, and one of the guys there, Bo, who's actually also a Christian, had said to me, just out of the blue, he had no idea, he just said, "Hey, Steve, you should come up here. You'd be great up here. You'd love it up here." And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh, is God trying to tell me, like, we should come up here? And so that kind of preyed on my mind for a while. And then fast forward a few months, and things in my personal walk with God had become kind of stagnant, and I thought, what's God trying to do in my life? What does He want us to do? What does He want me to do? Where does He want me to be? And finally, one night in November, I was praying about it and said, Lord, I don't know where you want me to be, but I'll go wherever you want me to. And up until that point in time, I'd been thinking that eventually I would be working at our Stony Creek office because we lived in Hamilton. And so rather than commuting to Toronto and back every day, I'd get a nice close drive to the Stony Creek office from Hamilton, which is only about 15 minutes away. So that's kind of where I had my mindset. That's where my goal was, is get to the Stony Creek office. But God had other plans, and so finally in November, when I surrendered to Him and said, Lord, I don't know where you want me to go, but I don't want to keep commuting because this is just exhausting and tiresome, and I can't imagine doing this for the next 30 years. So when I prayed about it, a couple of weeks later, the president of the company came over, knocked on my desk. I was on a phone call, and he says, "Come and see me afterwards." And I went and sat down in his office, and he basically says, "How would you like to go run the Barrie office?" And that kind of just blew my mind. I had no idea he was going to ask me to go and run the Barrie office. And he laid it out all on the table, and all these benefits and all these bonuses and amazing things that were going to happen if I made this move. And I thought, wow, like, God's really like alerting me here. There's something that He wants me to go to Barrie. This is sort of the third sign was, oh, you really need to go to Barrie. So Laura and I prayed about it, and we knew that there was a lot of costs and hurdles to overcome. Certainly moving from one town to another incurs a lot of costs, and Laura would have to give up her teaching job in Hamilton. And so, of course, going from a two-income family to becoming a single-income family, there's a lot of expenses there as well, and you have to adjust your lifestyle. And so when I went back to the president of the company, I really wasn't too sure what to say, but I prayed about it, and Laura and I prayed about it, and then 5 minutes before going into the meeting, prayed about it again and said, Lord, whatever you want to happen, if you want us to go to Barrie and Angus, that you'll make it happen. And when I walked into the meeting expecting some sort of difficult confrontation about how I'm gonna need help with this, that, and the other, He just made me an offer, and He offered me a salary that would be equivalent to both Laura and I's current salaries, and then He also offered to cover all of our moving expenses and the lawyer's fees and the closing costs and the land transfer taxes and all this sort of stuff. And I said, wow, okay. So Laura and I discussed it again and prayed about it again and said, okay, well, I guess this is what God wants to happen. I didn't even have to do anything. I didn't even have to say, oh, I'm worried about this, that, or the other. I just walked into the meeting and he just presented it to me, and I said, okay. All right, well, I guess God's taking care of us. So we started looking at real estate, came up here on a weekend, and we went around to some open houses, called our realtor, and then we went out and looked at some houses and put in an offer the day before Christmas on this house here. And then 2 months later, we moved up here. God's pretty amazing, and he's always right there for you exactly when you need him to be. And so long as I was willing to surrender to whatever God's will was, maybe at first, a year ago, I didn't want to move to Barrie. I was tunnel vision on Stony Creek office. But once I surrendered it to God and gave it to God, you know, within 2 weeks, he was, hey, I want you to go to Barrie. I want you to go run that office. And you know, God always wants to take care of his children and look after us. And he gave us an abundant blessing to come here. And it's really been amazing ever since we've been here.